o'clock on Sunday morning and you get up and go to worship, you're crazy. Sometimes people think that, don't they? But it's not to call attention to ourselves. It's promoting God. It's lifting Him up, not calling attention to us. We are to be a peculiar people. We're to be a holy people. Now, holiness to some people, H-O-L-I-N-E-S-S, holiness sounds scary. I'll tell you this right now. When I was a youngster, older elementary, I said, I don't ever want to be a pastor. You know what I had a pastor pictured like? He always wore a dark suit. He had a stern look on his face. And there's no way I want to be a pastor. I'll be a basketball coach. I won't be a pastor. Then God got a hold of me. And it's wonderful. It's enjoyable. It's great to serve the Lord, whether you're an engineer, technician, computer, whatever area, teacher. Now, what do you think about holiness? Here's what one fellow thought when he heard the word holiness, and went like this: thinness, hollow-eyed gauntness, beard, sandals, long robes, stone cells, no sex, no jokes, hair and shirts, frequent cold baths, fasting, hours of prayer, wild rocky deserts, getting up at 4 a.m., clean fingernails. Boy, I found myself yesterday and I had a dirty fingernail. Well, maybe I'd been working. I don't know. That's my excuse, my rationalization. Stained glass. Some people think all they think about holiness is stained glass windows. I told you I like these stained glass windows. But they think that's holiness. Holiness is everyday living, isn't it? It's loving people. That's the mental picture some people get. They say, monks in a monastery, mystics, martyrs, missionaries, they couldn't be further from the truth about holiness. Charles Colson, who wrote the book Loving God, and I think it's one of the best books I've ever read. Loving God. And he said this in one statement: holiness is the everyday business of every Christian. That's what we're about, no matter what we're doing. How we mop a floor, how we drive. Holiness is the everyday business of every Christian. Question number 5. Are you anticipating the coming of Jesus Christ? Are you anticipating? Are you looking forward to the coming of Jesus Christ? Well, 1 John 3, 1 through 7. Here's where it uses the word lavish. Now listen to this. 1 John 3, 1. How great is the love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called children of God! Exclamation point. Wow. And that is what we are. The reason the world does not know us is that it did not know Him. Dear friends, now we are the children of God, and what we will be has not yet been made known, but we know that when He appears, we shall be like Him, for we shall see Him as He is. Everyone who has this hope in Him purifies himself just as He is pure. We're to be ready at all times. You remember about General Douglas MacArthur in American history? I think it was in March of 1942. He gathered his family together and they escaped from the Philippines during the war to Australia, and that was miraculous in itself. But when he left, he said this: I will return. Say it with me. I will return. 2.5 years later, in October of 1944, he stood in the dirt, on the soil of the Philippine Islands, and he said to the people, "This is the voice of freedom. People of the Philippines, I have returned." Say it with me, those 3 words. I have returned. I want to tell you, the promise of Jesus is so much greater. It's not even comparable to what General Douglas MacArthur stated. Question number 6 in your outline. Do you love, L-O-V-E, the brothers and sisters? In 1 John 3, verse 14, it goes like this: we know that we have passed from death to life because we love our brothers. That's a huge need among Christians, is to love, is to really love. It's like I know some of you like to play baseball and soccer and ping pong and bowling and other things, but it's like a runner. It's called a dash. That's the 100-meter dash. Oh, it's over almost before you can blink your eyes. The 200-meter dash. That's my favorite to watch. I didn't say to run. My high school coach used to make us run that a lot. But 400-meter dash. I mean, it's over for the top-notch runners, it's about 46 seconds. And they've covered the distance. I just thoroughly enjoy watching it in the Olympics and anytime it's on television. Fervent in love. I mean, that speaks of intensity. It's like running. Do you notice when the runners are going? You thought I was going to run across here. I'm not. Relax. I'd fall. I might not get to the other side. Then I'd probably drop off. But they're running like this, and and here's the finish line, the tape, and they lean out like that, don't they? And some of them fall flat on their faces. They've just expended so much energy. It's intensity. It's reaching for the tape. Do you love the brothers and the sisters? Question number 7. Do you practice sin? We go to the last chapter in 1 Corinthians 5, verse 18. It goes like this. We know that anyone born of God does not continue to sin. The one who is born of God keeps him safe, and the evil one cannot harm him. Sinneth not. In other words, does not practice sin. We said before, if we sin, ask God to forgive us, to fill us afresh with His Spirit and move on. Now, ask God for the strength to be an overcomer, to confess to God. Now, confess meaning that we name whatever sin it is. We don't try to hide it before God because He knows it anyway. We confess what it is. If it's lust, if it's adultery, if it is in fact lying, we could say, well, I just exaggerated. What it really means is you lied. That's what it is. If we say, oh, I just have worry. But that would be unbelief, wouldn't it? Okay. Now, we need to say to God, now I'm come to the end, here it is. God, if it's lying, it's lying. If it's jealousy, say that to God. If it's lust, if it's revenge, if it's hate, if it's unforgiveness, if it's bitterness, if it's adultery, God will forgive us. You know, I happen to believe that if Judas Iscariot came to Jesus and asked Him to forgive him for denying Him and betraying Him, He would have forgiven him. Jesus was dying for Judas and the rest of us. But He didn't ask him to forgive him. He didn't confess it. He didn't agree with God about his sin. And so for you and for myself, we could say, well, how did we ever betray Jesus? Listen to these 3 items. Someone said this: we betray Him when we spend more time on the internet than praying. When we spend more time reading the morning newspaper than reading the Bible. When in fact we betray Him when we exercise our spiritual gift, not in the way that serves Him but serves us. And it becomes selfish. Well, now relax, they're just having a good time. We can go right on. You know, if you go to the city park, you hear it, and don't worry about it. We're just having a good. There's life in the building. That's good. That's good. Now, let me say this as I close. I have a sheet for you. And I trust you will carefully consider and honestly consider believe on and believe in Jesus. I mean, have the right attitude about sin, that it's sin. Don't practice it. Be separated from the world. Anticipate Jesus coming again, yes. Love the brothers and sisters. Do it. Now, after we sing the closing song, I'll give you one. I'll pass these sheets out, goldenrod sheets. And here's what I challenge you. You take one out. You take one. Fill it out. There are 10 questions. That's between you and God. I don't ask you to give them back to me. It's between you and God. And then in your quiet time this week, work on it. And then if you want to talk about any of these, or some of them, or one of them, well, Well, you're free to ask me. I'll do that privately with you. Or it's just meant to help each one of us grow in the Christian faith and live out these 7 questions, these 7 final questions. You can call me, you can email me, speak to me personally. Well, let's sing the closing number. And we want to do that. And that number is 492, Thou My Everlasting Portion.